Small, tucked-away anti-smuggling base on the border between Texas and Mexico wasn't much to look at. A handful of steel buildings, a few guard towers, and miles of arid desert stretching out in every direction. But for Sergeant Jack Ironcole, this base represented something more. A last line of defense against the criminal networks trying to smuggle everything from drugs to human trafficking victims across the border. Jack had served in the Army for over a decade, specializing in counter-smuggling operations, before joining the U.S. Customs and Border Protection's Special Task Force. His reputation as a no-nonsense soldier had spread far and wide. But today, his calm and steady demeanor would be put to the test in a way he didn't expect. It started with a tip-off. A biker gang, known as the Red Scorpions, had been linked to a new smuggling operation, moving illegal goods across the border, using the desert highways as their main route. These bikers weren't just a nuisance. They were well-organized and ruthless, involved in everything from gun running to drug trafficking. They had a reputation for getting their hands dirty, and no one, not even the military, had ever been able to catch them in the act. Jack had been stationed at the anti-smuggling base for just under a month. His job was to oversee operations along the border, monitoring the remote stretches of desert that often became highways for these criminal groups. The Red Scorpions had already slipped through his team's fingers twice each time. They'd vanished into the desert before backup could arrive. Today, however, was different. Word had come through the radio that a convoy of Red Scorpions was seen heading toward a secluded warehouse just a few miles from Jack's base. Without hesitation, Jack rounded up his team of officers and quickly devised a plan. This was his chance to catch them in the act, to finally stop the gang's smuggling operation cold. As the sun began to set, casting an orange glow over the desert, Jack and his team set up their ambush. They moved stealthily, using the terrain to their advantage, positioning themselves near the warehouse, where the bikers were expected to arrive. Jack knew this was a delicate situation. The Red Scorpions were dangerous, and if they spotted anything off, they would bolt faster than a coyote. But then, something unexpected happened. The bikers arrived early. The rumble of their engines echoed through the desert as a convoy of Red Scorpions pulled into the warehouse, their Harley-Davidsons kicking up dust in the fading light. Jack and his team stayed hidden, watching through their scopes, waiting for the right moment to strike. But one of the bikers, a towering man covered in tattoos and leather, saw a glint of movement from behind a pile of crates. It wasn't much, but it was enough. The Red Scorpions weren't about to take chances. "We've got company," the biker shouted, signaling his crew. Before Jack could give the order to engage, the bikers gunned their engines, revving them up as they scattered in all directions, trying to escape. Jack's heart pounded as his team scrambled into position, but the bikers had already covered the ground between them in seconds. In the chaos, Jack's training kicked in. He didn't hesitate. He sprinted toward the nearest cover, a nearby rock formation, and peered around it, spotting the leader of the Red Scorpions, a vicious-looking man named Jax, who had a reputation for ruthlessness. Jax wasn't running. Instead, he was taking out his frustration on the closest officers, shoving one of them to the ground. His smile was cold, like he was playing a game. Jack didn't wait for orders. He moved quickly, closing the distance between. As the convoy of criminals was brought under control, Jack stood over the captured Jax, catching his breath. The smuggling operation had been shut down before it could even get off the ground. But the real victory wasn't just the bust, it was the quiet, relentless focus that had won the day. Jack had done what many others thought was impossible. He'd caught the Red Scorpions red-handed. Jax, now on his knees, looked up at Jack with a mix of disbelief and respect. "You think this'll end with me?" he spat, a defiant edge still in his voice. Jack didn't flinch. "You're just the beginning." You'll be talking to a lot of people in the next few years." The sun was almost fully set now, and as the captured bikers were escorted away, Jack stood alone for a moment, staring into the vast desert. He had taken down a major smuggling ring, and in the process, he had reminded himself that no matter how far the criminals ran, no matter how many times they tried to disappear into the night, he would always be there waiting. For Sergeant Jack Iron Cole, the fight was never over. It was a constant, grinding battle against those who thought they could slip through the cracks of the law. But as long as he was here, the Red Scorpions and every other smuggler would know they had messed with the wrong soldier.